Welcome to this week's episode, guys. Today we're out at our property. We're doing a little late season scouting, and that brings up today's topic. We're going to be talking about the 3 biggest factors when scouting and what to look for. So to start this off, I want to go ahead and discuss what I think is the number one most important, and that is time of season. Whether that be summer, winter, fall. So no matter what time of season you're scouting, it's going to mean something differently. Summer means something way different than what November and December mean. So when it comes to time of year, in my opinion, the summer is the least important time to be scouting. Deer are going to be transitioning back into shady areas. There'll be a lot of foliage in the summer. There's going to be food sources everywhere, especially if you're in an ag county where there's tons of corn and soy around you. That's where the deer are going to be focused on. So it's a lot harder to draw deer in during the summer, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I prefer to try to keep deer off my farm, being a smaller property during the summer. I don't want to attract too many does and fawns on the property, so I tend to stick to more just fall food sources. If you're somebody that likes scouting during the summer, I'd highly recommend maybe just taking your time to hang stands and use last year's intel during the fall for your summer preparation instead of focusing on trail cameras and where the deer are at that time. Once summer comes to an end and we roll into September, deer are going to start to shift. They're going to lose their velvet and they're going to start transitioning into their fall properties. For time of year, the most important time for me is in-season scouting. And then there's also late season scouting, which has another great time to key in on deer and figure out where their movement has shifted again. But in-season scouting, as far as I'm concerned, is definitely the most important. It's going to tell you that real-time info. It's going to tell you what they're doing, where they're bedding, where they're transitioning, what's going on during the heat of season. And then that transitions over into late season, where they make another big shift. Foliage is gone. They're moved on to woody browse, maybe some standing grain, or a fall food source if you have it available for them. So winter can be a great time because it's very bare like this. You can see behind me, it's just wide open. The trails are very laid out. You can find rubs, you can figure out where they were bedded down and what transition areas they were likely using during the fall. But that doesn't mean overlook in-season scouting and focus on just late season scouting. I wouldn't necessarily dive in the bedding areas. You know where the deer are bedded, you know where they're traveling. That's when you use your intel from last season to tell you where these deer were, trail cameras, scrapes, rubs, all your sign that you were looking for. And then I'd wait till late season, the winter months after deer season's over, and then you can move in the bedding areas when you're looking for sheds and stuff to figure out where they likely shifted during the winter. The winter, they're going to be closer to the food source than probably any other time. Maybe the beginning of October, like the first week, they'll probably be about as close as they are then. If you're somebody that's a big summer scouter, I'd probably ditch that. Spend that time to be doing habitat improvements, hanging stands, putting blinds in place, get all your trail cameras set up based off of last fall's intel, and then just get prepared and hang back until maybe September, especially if you're down south and you're in a state where they start a month earlier than we do here in Illinois. I would go ahead and get all your stands prepped, get everything ready to rock and roll, and then as soon as October rolls around, then that's the best time to start scouting, because then deer are going to start shifting. If you have a deer that showed up in, say, September or October, maybe the first week of October this season, well, next season you can bet he's probably going to do the same thing. And if you're improving your habitat and you're putting in better food sources, you're creating good access, maybe you're screening things off, it's only going to be that much more likely he's going to show back up this following season. So time of season, extremely important. The second factor that I'm focusing on when it comes to scouting is, what does the sign mean and is it relevant to that time of season? If I'm finding a scrape, what does that mean? Is that a primary scrape, or is it a field edge scrape, or a scrape that's in a food plot? For me, primary scrapes are typically going to be in your bedding areas and your transition routes. So those are scrapes that I'll key in on, and I'll see if I can put stand locations near them. Most of those field edge and food plot scrapes, maybe they hit it once, twice. It's not something I'm going to key in on. So what I mean by what does the sign mean, if I see a scrape, I'm not going to hang a stand right on that field edge if that's a scrape they're only hitting one time. So that's where trail cameras come in handy. If I find a new scrape, I tend to mark them out on hunt stand throughout the season, And I want to know if it's a primary scrape, if it's somewhere I want to maybe hang a licking vine and make that a permanent spot to hang a stand over or put a blind near it. When I'm looking at sign, same with rubs. I don't tend to pay as much attention to rubs. If I find an area where there's a ton of rubs during season and I'm doing in-season scouting, yeah, I'll probably hang a stand there, try to catch them the next afternoon or the next morning coming back in there. But I don't key in on rubs near as much as I do mock scrapes. Licking branches, licking vines, those are great areas for stand locations. The rubs just tell me they're there. It doesn't mean they're going to come back and hit that tree again necessarily. So what does the sign mean? That's the second factor when scouting. You need to know, the trails, all the sign that they're laying down. What is that telling you? And try not to waste too much time on like field edge scrapes or hunting over rubs. If you key in on a primary scrape and you key in on their transition route and their bedding area and a major food source that they're hitting, you're gonna have far greater success this season than you are focusing on these rubs that they're only hitting one time and you're wondering where the heck they went. Just be sure anytime you find sign, that's a great time to go ahead and put a trail camera over it, especially a cell cam, because then it's gonna give you real-time info. It's gonna let you know if you're wasting your time on that spot or not. And if you are, pull that camera and move on to the next spot. So we talked about the time of year, what does the sign mean? And the third and last thing when scouting is, can I hunt this area? That's a really big one, because you'll go in and you'll find sign and you'll hang all these sets up, but what if that sign you can't even hunt? What if you don't have good access? You're bumping these deer out. You don't have a ridge or a creek or a screening or any, a berm or anything to cover your access. Say these deer are bedded down on a bench. They're using the thermals. They can see for a long ways. The wind's in their favor. And you come up in this bedding area clunking around and you're pushing that deer out. You'd have been far better off setting up maybe 100 yards further away and trying to figure out where he was moving to. So sometimes when you find the best sign, it doesn't mean you want to hunt that spot. You might want to be 50 yards off of that spot or 100 yards off of that spot. So you need to figure out what he's doing in that area, not just where he's bedded down at. I want to know where he's leaving that bedroom, what transition route he's moving through to get to the next food source. So don't overlook that. It can be a major step to increasing your odds this coming season, is figuring out what this sign means and can I access this area. If you can't access it, move on. Access is the #1 thing for harvesting mature bucks. So guys, with all that said, this off season, now that we're in the middle of January, I would get out there, I'd start looking for that sign, I'd start marking stuff out on Hunt Stand, go through all your trail cam photos and videos of this season, and that's how I'd plan my attack for this next 2021 season. Figure out where these deer were in the fall and what they were doing, where the big doe groups were, what was the hot early season food source, whether it was an acorn flat or a bean field. Then what did they transition to in the middle of the season, and so on throughout the rut all the way into late season, and then where did they go in late season. That's how you start to put the pieces of the puzzle together, and then that's when things start coming together for you. So I hope this helps you guys this coming season, and as always, we appreciate it, guys. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we'll be back next Friday.